It's Tuesday in Simpsonville, South Carolina, and the weatherman didn't miss what he said was going to happen. We have 1.5 inches of snow that stuck. We had probably 3 or 4 inches of snow that came down, but several inches of it melted as it came and as the ground was still warm. That's phase 1. Phase 2 occurs tonight and tomorrow, where we're expecting as much as another 6 inches of snow. So it's going to be a winter wonderland out there. It already is, and we're enjoying the beauty of it and the change of it. We're in the book of Exodus. 3 questions as we finish up chapter 2 and as we go into chapter 3. Why did God call Moses out of the wilderness? Why did God call Moses out of the wilderness? Question number 2. How did Moses show his respect at the burning bush? How did Moses show his respect at the burning bush? Question number 3. How did the Lord express his feelings or emotions because of the bondage of the Israelites in Egypt? How did God show his feelings or emotions as he watched the people in bondage in Egypt? Question number 4. What was the promise of God to the people of Israel? What was the promise of God to the people of Israel? Question number 5. What was the cost going to be for that promise? What was the cost going to be for that promise? Are you ready? Why did God call Moses out of the wilderness? I want to actually read you the text, Exodus chapter 2, verses 23 through 25. Now it came about in the course of those many days that the king of Egypt died, and the sons of Israel sighed because of the bondage, and they cried out, and their cry for help because of their bondage rose up to God. Notice they may have been unhappy about their bondage up to this point, but now they're crying out to God. So God heard their groanings, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and saw the sons of Israel, and God took notice of them. What an incredible verse. And God took notice of them. He called them out of the wilderness because he had a task for them to do. Question number 2. How did Moses show his respect at the burning bush? Most of you probably answered that he removed the sandals from his feet because it was holy ground. And that's true. However, it's only part. Verse 6, it says he hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. He hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. When we come into the presence of a holy God, it's overwhelming. And he hid his face. Question number 3. How did the Lord express his feelings or his emotions about the bondage of the people of Israel? This is one of my favorite Bible verses in the Old Testament, and particularly in the book of Exodus. Listen carefully to Exodus chapter 3, verse 7. The Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and have given heed to their cry because of their taskmasters, for I am aware of their sufferings. Now let me say that in another word for you. The Lord saw, he heard, and he felt their sufferings. It's all right there in one verse. God saw, he heard, and he felt their sufferings. That ought to be encouraging to you today. It is always to me to think about that verse. That God sees. He's an all-seeing God. He hears, and he's an all-hearing God. And he feels. He feels our sorrow and our suffering and our difficulties. That's quite a God, isn't it? That sees and hears and feels everything that we do. Question number 4. What was the promise of God to the people of Israel? He said he'd deliver them to a land flowing with milk and honey. What a great promise. He promises us the same thing through Christ. He promises us heaven for an eternity, a land flowing with milk and honey. It's not nearly as good as the heaven that he's promised us through Jesus. And question number 5, what was the cost going to be? I think sometimes we forget that God's promises and following him costs something. I just talked with a dear brother in Texas, and we were talking about the fact that many times the TV evangelists and others make it sound like if we give our heart to Jesus, everything's going to be easy. God told the people of Israel, it's going to take you to land flowing with milk and honey, but listen to what the cost is going to be. It's a land where the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites dwell. They'd have to be dealt with. They were heathens. They were pagans. And God was going to give them a land, but it wasn't going to be without any effort on the part of the Israelites. And when God gives us eternal life through Jesus Christ, and when he calls us to be disciples and followers of him, there's always a cost. Take up your cross and follow him. That's your thought for the day. God bless you and have a wonderful day. And enjoy the snow pictures.